Hello, welcome to Real Estate Talks with Tessa. This is part 3 in my 3-part video series about the proposed changes to the Short-Term Accommodations Act that the province of BC has just released. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts of this video series, go back and check those out first. I walk through the actual proposed changes, and the second video was about how that may impact the market. This third part is going to be what to do if you are someone who's going to be impacted by this. First, if you are lucky enough that you meet the principal residence requirement that's going to be put in place and your zoning allows for you to have a short-term rental in an Airbnb, all you're going to have to worry about is applying and make sure you have a business license and that your business license number is in the listing. Second, if you do not meet that principal residence requirement, there's going to be more of an impact for you. There will be a couple things to consider here. So first off, you can consider keeping your unit and running it as an Airbnb until the May 1st, 2024 deadline that we discussed in part 1. At which point you then may want to look at renting out your unit to a longer-term tenant. Given the housing market here in Greater Victoria and the Cowichan Valley up to Duncan, finding a long-term tenant might not be an issue because there is such high demand for good rentals here in the area. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. Now, if you are someone who doesn't want to have to deal with the risks involved with having a longer term tenant and dealing with the strict rules of the Residential Tenancy Act, you may want to look at selling your property. As I mentioned in part 2 about the premium on short-term rentals here, you may be unfortunately looking now at a loss if you have purchased an Airbnb unit over the past couple of years because of that premium of, like I said, approximately 12% on top of the price of just a regular old condo. But if you do want to take your money out of the housing market and don't want to rent to a tenant, this may be the best option, pulling your money out and investing it elsewhere. Luckily, if you have purchased your unit a few years back, just with the way the housing market has been here in Victoria, you might be lucky that your condo price has increased in value, and therefore this might be a perfect option for you. The best strategy for you here is going to be completely dependent on your personal situation, when you purchased your property, what future use you want it for. For example, if you were just using it as an Airbnb because in a couple of years from now you wanted to move into it, then that might mean you want a longer term tenant in there to sit and hold your property until you actually decide to move in yourself. If it was only being used for Airbnb and this was kind of like running a business for you, then you may unfortunately have to look at selling it and hopefully coming out with a gain. But unfortunately, like I mentioned, because of that loss in premium and depending on when you purchased your Airbnb unit, you may be looking at a loss. I also just wanted to quickly make note of a common misconception with these proposed rules. Just because of the principal residence requirement, that doesn't necessarily mean that if you are living on a property that you can Airbnb out your secondary suite. You can only short-term rental Airbnb out your secondary suite if it is currently in the bylaws for you to do so. So, example, Victoria does not allow short-term rentals. So this means that if you have a property in Victoria with a secondary suite, you are not able to rent out the secondary suite as an Airbnb. Definitely stay updated on whether these proposed changes do go through, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of news coverage around it when it does, so keep your eyes open for that. I hope these videos were informative and see you next time.